Part 21. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 203. Yanj said, "You move, it scares me. Don't blame me for the bullets running out." Cao Zijian was frightened and immediately raised his hands. "Hurry up and remove the gun. Anything to say is good, the gun is too dangerous. If there is a gunshot, what will happen to me and you and the party behind you? It's not going to be easy at home. Pick up the sound, do nt be impulsive, slowly move the gun away, okay?" What he said, the soft and the hard came, and it seemed to be really scared. Singing with laughter, "Do you see me as an impulsive person?" After a pause, she said, "You came all the way to kill me? I can't believe it. I thought you would come and ask me why I should divorce you." Cao Zijian didn't dare to grab the gun. He was even more afraid of the ups and downs of Yan Ji, so when he heard the words, he immediately asked with deep affection, "Why did you divorce me at the beginning? Cai Yin, don't you like me? I have always missed you abroad, and my family was embarrassed to say that you and I were divorced, and I always wanted to come back to you and ask why, but then I encountered difficulties abroad, and she saved me. Kayin, you are so strange to me now. Why are you like this? Kayin, don't do this. Well, let's sit down and talk. Well, you tell me what's wrong with me. I can change it for you." "Yan Song, you can't change it." As soon as Cao Zijian heard the words, he felt a play, and immediately vowed, "I can change, I like you so much, I can change anything for you." Yanj sighed, "I wore a few green hats for you, and found that your thing is very small, extremely small, and completely incomparable to others. I secretly asked Langzhong, and he said that your situation is abnormal. It's impossible for a woman to have children in the future. I am a normal woman. I think I will have my own children in the future. I can't always live with someone like you." At the end, she added, "This kind of thing, you must be helpless, you can't change it at all." Cao Zijian thought of countless possibilities, but he never thought that Yanj and his divorce turned out to be for such a reason. His face turned red first, and then blue with anger. "I'm not deformed." He almost roared out such a word. She actually gave him a green hat, and it wasn't one. And he also hated him. No man can stand such words. But her rhetoric and decisiveness made him angry, but she also panicked and wondered if he was really small. "You're just a bit small, and it's not abnormal," Yan Ji said in his words. "You can rest assured that I didn't tell others about this," and you whispered, "After all, it is not decent." Cao Zijian's impulse to continue to growl was suppressed because of the words. It was really whispering, he couldn't let others hear it, otherwise he wouldn't be able to wash even if he jumped into the Yellow River. "You dare to find another man." Cao Zijian was very angry, but he didn't want to entangle with the words in his own problem. He could only shift his focus. "Who is that person?" "A lot, I have forgotten who it is," Yanj said. "You can ask your second brother another day, he wants to help me pimp, he knows my things better than I do." Seeing Cao Zijian reaching out to slap her face, Yan Ji's gun hit his chin directly, saying sarcastically, "Your hand is fast, or my bullet is fast." After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 204. Cao Zijian's hand paused in midair. He stared at the song, his face changed a little, but in the end, his fingers were squeezed tightly, and he let it go slowly. The anger on his face faded into a stormy calm. He stared at Yanj and asked, "What do you want?" She must have been asking for something, so she kept paying attention to him, and holding on to his evidence. She didn't send it to the coach. As long as there is demand, everything is easy to say. Thinking about it that way, Cao Zijian's heart completely calmed down, and he stared at Yanj with a mock face. "What do you want?" Yanj poked his jaw with a gun. "Guess." Cao Zijian wanted to laugh, but he couldn't laugh. His face was tense, for fear that Yanj would wipe his gun and go away. He tried to Yanj's gun several times, but was afraid of hurting himself by mistake. "This is not the place to speak," he said to Yanj, "how about we find a place to talk?" Yanj shook his head, "I have no intention of talking to you for the time being." She withdrew the gun, took away the bullet box, and threw the gun to Cao Zijian. "Don't bother me in the future. If there is any wind blowing around me, I will immediately send all those things to the commander." She smiled at Cao Zijian, and said, "I have more things in my hand than you think. You better stay calm." Okay. Cao Zijian slowly put the gun back into the holster, and he also smiled and said, "I'll take it easy." The words fell and turned, opened the door to leave, and there was no wind at all, even without turning back. He always thought that Fang Kaiyan was a canary in a cage. Although he had claws, it was just a decoration. He was deliberately going to meet her, and in fact he wanted to avenge her halfway abandonment. He devised countless ways to meet, and fantasized about ways to keep her out and play, but he had no idea that when they met for the first time, he would fail fiercely. This did not meet his expectations at all. Until he got on the bus, Cao Zijian looked dumb, who looked like he owed him millions. The chicken was puzzled. "Why didn't you just kill him? Such a man, you can see in his eyes. If you don't kill him, he will kill you sooner or later. You won't be confused by his little tenderness, right? Although he looks good and can breed offspring, he is almost a distance from the bald guy." The is now calling Cao Zijian as bald. "I don't know what Cao Zi knows about his nickname." Yanj said, "The host doesn't like Hui Cao, would I like it?" Also, the chicken sighed, "Then why don't you kill him? You won't fall on him with this shot, he will definitely try to kill you. He doesn't dare, such as Cao Zijian, who valued his career and fame. He really dared not take great risks to kill his words." Yanj opened the window to ventilate the room, thinking that Cao Zijian had been sitting on her desk and chair before she would abandon it, and her mood was affected this afternoon. Words of song did not stand still. "She moves faster than Cao Zijian." A report that Cao Zijian had a wife and parents, and the parents were smokers. The letter to sell his daughter for money was not only sent to the Shanghai marshal, but also the love letters Cao Zijian once wrote to the host. They were all copied by Yanj and given to Cao Zijian's wife today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 205. Yanj took Cao Zijian's identity out in the capital. Cao Zijian is still waiting for Yanj to raise the conditions, and is also secretly checking the face of Yanj. He probably thought that the word song was just a verbal threat to him, and he would never really expose it. After running away from the siege of 2 killers in a row, Cao Zijian thought about it again and again, and only the words that could reveal his identity. His car had been blown up, and he simply swapped clothes with the driver before taking his own people out of the siege. He did not leave the capital in time, but instead hid in Tibet to sneak in the dark. In this capital, there are too many people who hate Yanj. There are a few younger brothers who have been uttered tea in public, and they always want to find a chance to give Yanj a color. Cao Zijian hated it very much. At the beginning, she also understood the song and thought that it was not easy for her to be a weak woman. She thought that as long as she admits something wrong, she will cover her later. But he didn't expect the woman to bite him without knowing how to rise. Everyone around him advised Cao Zijian to leave the place of Beijing first, and then he would return with his soldiers in hand. But Cao Zijian was reconciled. Even if he left, he had to meet the woman first and kill the woman. Yanj is mostly in the school dormitory, and rarely goes out. Especially during this time, Tian Tianwo, who wrote articles in her dormitory, almost didn't hear anything outside the window. Someone from the delivery room gave her a message, saying that a fragrant woman was looking for her, and Yanj smiled and thanked her. She finished writing the manuscript in her hand and changed into a purple cheongsam. This woolen coat is out of school. Recently, the city is too messy, so Yan Ji calls a car every time he goes out. As soon as he leaves the school, a car stops in front of her. The car came quickly and in time. Yanj paused, but got in the car. The driver of the car wore a hat with a droopy brim so that no facial features could be seen. As soon as Yanj got into the car drove forward. Obviously abnormal. Yan Ji didn't panic, as calm as expected. She asked the driver, "I've waited for a long time." The driver in the front seat shook his hands on the steering wheel, then slowly took off his hat. It was Cao Zijian. "Yeah," he said, "I have waited for you for 3 days." He has the risk of losing his head when he stays in Beijing for more than 3 days. Yanj smiled slightly, "It should be more than just waiting for me. Everyone thinks you have left the capital and all are lying on the road. Whoever thinks you are brave, is still in the capital. Beijing's first talented girl is really well deserved." Cao Zijian also laughed and said with a sarcastic voice, "Have you ever thought you would be sitting in my car today?" Otherwise, Yanj asked him, "Don't you think I can't even imagine this?" Cao Zijian's complexion changed slightly. "There are so many people in Beijing who are looking for him now. Is it true that the song is a bait that some people gave him? How else could this woman be so calm from start to finish?" His hands clung to the steering wheel, and the car rushed forward. Gaze into the rearview mirror from time to time to see if there is a tail behind the car. "Don't be nervous." Yan Ji still smiled, elegant and reserved, in stark contrast to the panic Cao Zijian. "Even if they catch you, they shouldn't let you die. In fact, you don't need to be so panic. When they hide in Tibet, they dare to do it secretly. If you hide in such a way, it seems that you are too young." The more calm the words, the more flustered Cao Zijian's mind. Who is this woman working with? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 206. Cao Zijian pretended to be calm and asked the words, "How do you know that I will come to you?" Yanj smiled confidently, "I'm so beautiful. I think every man will miss me when I see him, not to mention that you have countless green hats on your head. You should never forget me more than any man." Cao Zijian. At this moment, he just wanted to shoot and crash the song. Yan Ji ignored the twisted anger on his face and continued to say, "Are you looking for me to kill me? Or do you want me to fall in love with you? Actually, I think you are a big-time person and charge for such a small woman you don't need to try your best. This kind of thing seems to be too narrow and you don't have a long-term vision, but unfortunately, I thought that you would be better polished by staying abroad for a while, and you are really disappointed by this performance." Cao Zijian's lips were clenched, his teeth were trembling because of his anger, and there were countless words in his mouth that he wanted to swear. But at this moment, his gaze was staring ahead. Because there was a car behind him. He had to get rid of it, he didn't have the energy and words to return. "Last time I wrote a thank you letter to your current wife. Thank you for taking over your disability so that I can get out of the sea of bitterness." Yanj continued, "I can tolerate a man like you. She should be a lady of bodhisattva who always accumulates goodness and hopes that she will always tolerate you to accept you, lest you go to harm other women." Shut up. Cao Zijian didn't expect Yanj to write a letter to his wife. He was so angry that his chest was rippling. "Several times I reached out and tried to pull the gun to the woman behind, but I felt that it was too cheap to kill her." After another sharp turn, he yelled at Yanj from the rearview mirror, smiling grimly, "So much like to take my car, then I will take you to a good place." "Yan Song, I never look forward to what you say." Cao Zijian didn't say anything. The car kept speeding and kept teetering in the city. After walking a few more streets in this way, he couldn't help but ask her, why did we come to such a point between us? He loved her so much, he always remembered how strong he liked her at the time. When he married her, he was full of pride and contentment, and he even had the kind of happiness of marrying the world. But why is she like this? But in just a few years, did she and him make each other? Yan's answer did not hesitate, because you are short. Cao Zijian's heart sighed with anger when he was too late to say it, and was blocked by the words. Bitch, he finally could not help but cursed and said, you are a bitch, 1,000 ride. Before he finished speaking, there was a pain in his arm, blood spewed out, all over the splashed glass. Cao Zijian with a grim expression turned his head slightly and stared at his shoulders. This woman not only has a gun, but dare to shoot him. The pain in the shoulders gradually got into the bone marrow. When his steering wheel was crooked, he just stepped on the brakes, and the car in the back bumped into it, hitting his car directly to the side wall. Cao Zijian hit his head on the steering wheel. Before he could react, the window was broken and the door was opened. He was grabbed by his shoulders and pulled out of the door. Dare to hit my woman's idea, find death. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 207. Cao Zijian had wanted Cao Zijian for a long time. It was a rare opportunity for him to kick Cao Zijian on the ground. Cao Zijian, who was beaten to death, fainted. He walked to the back door and opened the door. He hurriedly asked the song, still elegantly sitting in the position, where was the injury? Let me see. It's blind. Cao Zijian's chest was full of blood, and the car's glass was also splashed with blood. At a glance, the sighted man opened the gun and Cao Zijian was the one who shot. After Cao Zijian opened the door, he held the words in his arms, and touched it up and down. Why did you run out with this asshole, you weak girl? How can you beat him? Yan Ji's hair was scattered by him. She reached out and patted his face with a slap. I'm fine, don't hold me, I can walk. But she didn't get into Cao Zi's ears at all. He hugged her into the co-pilot position in his car, and touched the eyelids of his words, close your eyes and don't look. This is to kill Cao Zijian. Yanj grabbed his hand, don't kill him. Cao Zixi raised his eyebrows, and probably felt that Yan Ji was unforgettable, and his intentions were even heavier. Seeing that he had pulled out his gun, Yanj said hurriedly, keep him, it's too easy to die, but it's hard to live. When Cao Zi heard the words and laughed, his thick eyebrows were raised, and his dark eyes laughed really badly. I like the idea of you, and it really is my woman. This idea is also extraordinary. He didn't wait for the words to rebut, and immediately closed the car door. In the end, he was not reconciled. He walked up to Cao Zijian's front and shot Cao Zijian's leg again. At the end, when he got on the car, he started the car and said to Yanj, relax, he can't die. Yan Song, you have enmity against him. Even if he can't die, Cao Zijian will definitely be a lame leg in the future. Cao Zi chuckled, and Chan Chan smiled wide open. At the time, he almost broke my leg, which should be considered a feud. Yanj was curious, why? Cao Zijian's car was probably not too far away from his own place. Cao Zi's car had just started, and there was a sudden sound of gunfire behind him. Cao Zijian said to the song, crouch, crouch. His car rushed forward and pulled out his gun to look at the people behind him from the rearview mirror. Yanj did not squat. She pulled out her gun, grabbed the handrail with one hand, leaned out of the window, and fired at the person behind. Cao Zi's intimidating heartbeat was almost gone, and this woman was also timid. Hemp eggs, it's hard to see each other, don't even sleep, the woman just hangs himself, he yells, come back soon. Yanj said, the two guys behind were the men who insulted me with Cao Ziqiang. This time they must have helped Cao Zijian. I will kill them first. Cao Zijhen. Heartbreak, he still wants to do her, can't she cherish her life for him? Cao Zijhen immediately said, where do you need to do this kind of person, you crouch down and hide, let me see. Yanj, it's done, drive your car, don't roll over. Cao Ziwan. A woman is too powerful to show his extraordinariness. Cao Zijhen came back this time to take over the forces in Beijing. The big pie in Beijing is different from everyone else. Everyone wants to bite, but very few people can bite this big pie. Yan Ji did not expect Cao Zi to step in at this time. After all, the host's lifetime, Cao Zi did not return to Beijing after hanging up. However, since he came back, Yan Ji will do his utmost to help him. After all, he is his own bed companion. Just to make every effort to please himself every night, she should reward him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 208. Cao Zi certainly did not know what Yanj thought. In the evening, I ate a bowl of noodles cooked by Yanj himself, and Yanj helped him undress and bathe. He was overwhelmed by the happiness of floating in the clouds. Before he got out of the bath barrel, he took the song in and tossed it. This night, it was repeated. The feeling of holding a woman's tender body to sleep is too beautiful. Cao Zixi woke up in the morning and touched the person in her arms without thinking of getting up. Still, Yanj was awakened by his hand and asked him, "Are you leaving?" Cao Zixi nodded. Yanj got up and put on a new coat from the cabinet and handed it to Cao Ziu. "I did it by myself. How about putting it on?" Cao Zi hadn't worn it yet, and immediately said, "It looks good, it's good, it's good." He hadn't expected that a young lady like Yan Ji who would hold a pen would really make clothes. Holding the clothes and smirking for a while, "Put on the old clothes again, you did such a good job, I will save this clothes, and take it out when I get old." Yan Ji saw him silly, and reached out and touched his bald head. "Wear it, I'll do it for you later." Cao Zijhen immediately felt very distressed and said, "Don't do it, don't do it. Your tender hand, what needle and thread do you need, don't do it in the future." Yan Ji has turned around, and pulled out a knitted hat from the cabinet and handed it to Cao Zi. "This is also for me, weaving." Waxiang said that this is the latest popular weaving method, how about it? No matter what the knitting method is, Cao Zijhen looked at this green hat, and his smile froze. The color is also beautiful. The green and green-like vitality of the tree leaves was specially selected by me. Subsense also said that the color is very beautiful. I am proud of my vision. I also knitted it for myself. How about it? Holding a proud woman, Cao Zian swallowed again in his throat. He felt that Mixiang had a misunderstanding about him, so she had to take time to talk to that girl. My girl was so badly damaged by that girl, really, what kind of vision does that girl introduce to her so green? Yanj has put on his hat on Cao Ziu's head, does it feel the right size? The expression of the song with the throbbing look, his eyes were clearly waiting for Cao Zijhen's praise. He couldn't refuse this beautiful little face. So he reluctantly smiled and said, "It's appropriate." "Yan Song, do you want to see? Cao Zia has a toothache." "What's so nice about a green hat?" No, he had to check whether the woman really gave him a green hat in these 2 days. "Mother, put on this hat, he always has the illusion of a green head. Every minute I want to tear this hat off." With a toothache, he hummed under Yanj's big eyes for praise, "It looks good." Yanj insisted, "Do you like it?" Caozi finally could not bear it, and weakly refuted, if the color is stable again, I will actually prefer it. To be honest, this green always makes me have a kind of weird feeling. He didn't wait for the words to speak, he said euphemistically, voicing, that, the word green hat is actually not very good. Most men are actually sensitive to green hats. Yanj, this way, you don't like it, then forget it. She tore off the green hat on Caozi's hoe. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 209. No, I don't like it. Caozi immediately noticed the change in the mood of Yanj. He quickly got up and hugged Yanj, pecked her forehead and said, I like it very much, I like it especially, it's this green that makes me a little strange. Strange, otherwise, after you change your color, shall I always wear it? Yanji reached out and pushed him away and drew his fingers towards him. I feel bad for my own hands, and I won't do knitting in the future. It's almost dawn, please hurry up. Caozixi nodded, this kind of thing is really not suitable for you to do, so don't do it in the future, so as not to jab you. With this woman's aesthetic, he felt that the hat she knitted was 100% green again. Too thick. He had to find Ayaka to settle the bill. After Caozixuan left, Yanj put the green hat on his head, and shot in front of the mirror. Caozixhan didn't like such a pure color, and also linked this hat to the green hat, which was totally an insult to her. Yanji sighed and said to the chick, the gap between people and trees is really great. The chicken said nothing about the aesthetics of the wood, only trees can tolerate your thoughts. Without waiting for the song to speak, it said, curious about how your tree and tree communicate with each other in depth? Like you, is there a difference between male and female? You should be both attackable and acceptable. Yanj thought seriously, I don't know. After all, she hasn't encountered a similar person till now, and she hasn't had a chance to communicate in depth. The chicken came over and pointed her like a human, I have encountered similar people in the future. No matter if I can go down together, let's try some effects first. Yanj rarely rebutted this time, okay. She also felt that this matter was very important. Caozixhan returned to the capital to be even more busy, sometimes no one was seen for several days. But whenever he has a little time, he will come here in the middle of the night. About Caozixhan's news, Yanj also kept getting it from Caozi. Caozixhan was shot by Yanj and Caozixun was shot. It was also a life of 9 deaths. He took his followers to the devil to find the commander. But when he entered the martial house, it was the ridicule and contempt of the marshal. Jackie Chan, Caozixhan, was completely neglected by the commander, he couldn't even see his wife. But even so, he is confident that he can stand firm in front of the coach. But it wasn't long before he became a man with a tail, and his parents and younger brother in the capital also came to Dashuefu to join him. His parents made a big noise at the door of the coach, saying that they were the parents of the coach, and scolded the guard for not knowing Taishan. The battle between the old couple of Cao happened to be hit by the head coach who went out. Immediately, people were brought to Caozixhan to question Caozixhan, are the parents dead? Caozixhan also made an immediate decision and immediately said that this was not his parents, and took out his own hands to kill Cao's parents and Caozixhan. He probably wanted to use this to show loyalty, but the things he even killed his parents made the coach a little bit cold, and never reused him. Moreover, the commander's daughter soon divorced him and married another. He disappeared in the demon Caozi said, touching the soft hair of his words, I probably want to come back to you in Beijing again. In this case, the vinegar smell is full. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 210. Yanji knew, however, that with Caozixhan's fear of death, he would never return to the capital. He must be dormant somewhere, and thought of pulling the heart of his handsome daughter again. However, she thinks that Cao Zijian is not likely to leave Modu alive. As she expected, where would the handsome man be? Cao Zijian, who knew so many secrets, would leave, and Cao Zijian's disappearance would still be the masterpiece of the handsome man. Want to have a wedding? Today's Cao Zi and Yanj are paired up on many occasions. Yanj stickers are all around Cao Zi's tags, but what Cao Zi can't understand is that Yanj has never been with him mentioned marriage. He even prepared the ring, but waited and waited, but she didn't wait for her request in this regard, and he couldn't help but speak first. Wedding, Yan Ji was surprised. In such a troubled world, what kind of wedding is required, and Cao Zi has so many enemies? What should I do in the event of being shot dead at the wedding? It's better to keep a low profile. Okay. He doesn't feel good at all. The green hat he didn't like was put in a favorite decorative box by her, which made him palpitated. There was always a feeling that he would be wearing countless green hats one day. He immediately said again, "It's popular to take wedding photos now, we get married and take a photo by the way." The current wedding photos are black and white, and Yanj is really not interested, but since Cao Zi likes it, Yanj has not refuted. There are hard-working factions like Cao Zi, and the two finished talking in the bed that night. The next day, Cao Zi took Yanj to take pictures. The two did not choose the current dress. Yanj wore a red cheongsam, and Cao Zijian wore a military uniform. Yanj was sitting on a chair, Cao Zi was standing behind her. The heroic beauty of the man and the beauty of the woman made all the backgrounds around them become the foil. The photographer in the photo studio even wanted to persuade the song to take more pictures. But Yanj has very little interest. Within 2 days after the photo was taken, Cao Zijian was dispatched again. The night before he left, he kept tormenting in words. Instead, Yanj asked him, "Will I go with you? I will simply bandage and treat the wound, and I can be a military nurse." Cao Zi shook his head, "I can't bear to go. Now the domestic situation is getting more and more tense. She is so beautiful and so fragile. How can she survive without him in this troubled world?" Leaving her behind, he was afraid she would be bullied by others, took her with him, and he couldn't bear her to suffer a little bit. He woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't help but wake her up and asked, "The march is very hard, life is always in danger. Are you willing to go with me?" Yanj was drowsy, and she stretched out her hands and squeezed his cheeks, muttering in his neck, "You are my man, if you want me to go, go, if you want me to stay, I will stay, and listen to you." She didn't hesitate to pet a man. After listening to this, Cao Zi's uneasy heart finally settled at this moment. He squeezed her hand and finally made up his mind, "You stay in the capital. Although Beijing is also chaotic, chaos is not the battlefield. I just left this time but I don't know when I can meet again." He was so anxious that he didn't even have the mentality of doing men's and women's business. He just held her tightly and tightly. At the time of parting, he left by himself, without waking up the sleeping song. As soon as Cao Zijian left, Yan Ji opened her eyes. In the darkness, her eyes were clear and she didn't feel a little sleepy. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 211. The chicken asked the song, "Should you stay in Beijing?" "What to stay?" Yanj said, "I am such a beautiful woman, so many foreign languages, and staying in the capital during this period is too swaggering. The most important thing is that the man she covers, this time leaving, may never be able to return to Beijing." She thought that instead of staying in Beijing, it would be better to follow him. If he's dead by then, anyway, she can ask him what he wants before he dies. After all, it wasn't the man she had slept with, and he had to let him die somewhere. Of course, the chicken did not understand the brain circuit of Yanj. It had to say, "I know you want to run to see his majestic appearance on the battlefield in military uniform. This is not the age of cold weapons. Where can there be any prestige? The battlefield is the end of a grenade." Yanji did not refute the chicken cock's take for granted. She said, "I should be done with this task." She has recently been particularly unconfident and insecure about the task. "I always feel that every time it seems smooth, but there will always be a big pit waiting for her at the end." This geeky system did not make her experience the feeling of being obsessed with tens of thousands of people, but made her feel the taste of various failures. In this regard, the chicks cannot be 100% sure. Yanj followed the army as a nurse. The medical staff of the army was protected at the beginning, so it was fairly stable, probably because Yanj looked more eye-catching. Even in such a battlefield where there was no guarantee, there were still many soldiers dedicated to Yanj. Knowing that Yanj can write, there are also many soldiers who will ask Yanj to help them write homework when they are not busy. Although the day of the march was bitter, it was also fulfilling, but after so long, Yanji had never seen Cao Zhichen. She is a medical staff. She didn't see Cao Zixuan, which only shows that this guy is alive and well. The war is getting more and more intensive, and there are more and more casualties every day. There are even many casualties who have a breath, but have to give up because of the transfer. Although she is used to parting in life and death, in such a time of war and flames, Yanj is still not calm and objective, presumably because she has a heart that belongs to her host, and she will also cry for those who are injured. Person suddenly left and was sad. "When I saw Cao Ziu, the guy was shot in the shoulder and was carried into the medical shed. He hadn't fainted yet, and everyone told him to stay still. Although he bit a towel in his mouth, his other hand kept trying to touch his chest. The chest was all blood, and the medical staff thought he wanted to touch the wound, so he just pressed his hand. Angrily he spit out the towel in his mouth and shouted, 'Grass, don't press Laozi.' A hand touched his chest at this time, drawing a picture from the inside of his clothes. The men and women in the photo were blood-stained and could not see clearly, but Cao Ziu did not pick up the photo. He stared at the hand pinching the photo. Yanj put the towel back in his mouth, wiped the photo again, and put it in his hand. Cao Zhichen grabbed her wrist with his backhand, squeezed her tightly with the photo, and held it in his palm. He looked up at her, spit out the towel in his mouth and said, "Why did your special mother come here?" Immediately afterwards, the doctor took out the bullet from his shoulder with his pliers, and he suddenly screamed in pain. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 212. The injured Cao Zixun, lying on the stretcher for 3 days, returned to the battlefield. For the past 3 days, he had been watching Yanj busy in the medical shed, and only when he helped him change his medicine, they would have the opportunity to speak. He never asked her why she came to such a place. She is so beautiful, she speaks a foreign language, and she has a better gun than him. Even in this troubled time, he thinks that maybe he will be without him, and she will be very moist. But she came to the battlefield. This kind of people will leave the battlefield one by one. This meal is a battlefield of mud and sand. How did a lady like her endure it? In these few nights, the night was quiet and finally no longer busy, she lay down beside him. With so many wounded people around, there were occasionally moans of the wounded, and they squeezed each other's hands, looked at each other, and fell asleep. Why she came, he knew the answer without asking. Protect yourself. Every time she helped him change his medicine, Caozi said that. It is good. When the battle is over and the devils are run away, whether you want to or not, I will marry you. It is good. In the future, we will have many children and live together for a lifetime. I will spoil you for a lifetime. It is good. Her man, she is very willing to spoil, she will agree to whatever she can. On the battlefield, this is the most conversation they have. But in the end it didn't happen. He lived longer than the host, and longer than she imagined. However, they did not live after the war. For so long, she has changed from a paramedic to a soldier next to him. She followed him every day and even forgotten that she was a host of fans. In the last war, they defended South City. He seemed to have a hunch, and suddenly asked her, "Don't regret it later." Regret? Of course not. Protecting one's male is a matter of pride, and pride for every tree. But before she spoke, he said, "I won't give you a chance to regret it." Almost instantly, she understood what he meant. At the moment he was shot, even if his body was lying on the ground, he turned and fired at her. She went to pick up his body. No dodge, no surprise. She hugged him and fell down with him. When the moment fell into darkness, Yanj seemed to hear a low voice saying, "Ian, see you next time." This is Caozu's voice, but it seems not. The sound was soft, fleeting like a breeze, leaving no trace. A short while later, Yanj has returned to the system space of the enthusiasts. This time, she didn't have time to look inside, so she asked the chicken, "Did you just feel any other source fluctuations?" The chick shook his head. "Did you hear someone speak?" The chick continued to shake his head, and his eyes looking at Yanj were like a neurosis. But the song didn't feel like she was listening. She frowned. "Is there a good old lady? Call her a Yan, the relationship is certainly not ordinary, if there is an unusual old friend, she would not be impressed." Chicken. This piece of wood ate in the bowl and looked at the pot. He was dead and the uniform man was holding her. He was really jealous of it. Yanj sighed, "Or what guy has been embarrassing about my beauty, because I don't dare to appear in front of me because of my inferiority. I can only want to have a dewy marriage with me this way."